Hey, what's up, good people? What's up? Thank you again for tuning in to the CloudCity Converse. We got our Father's Day episode, so happy Father's Day to all the brothers out there that are doing the right thing. And I want to introduce you, world, to my good friend. This is my man, Jermaine Atherton, my brother. We were chit-chatting a few days ago and talking about the podcast and everything that we're trying to do. And I was telling him he has a very interesting story, and I wanted to know if he would be willing to come on and share with us and talk a little bit about breaking generational curses, right? Not necessarily the way you might think. So before we get started into the deep of the conversation, just tell the people a little bit about yourself, you know, your story, anything you want to share, and then we'll get into the deep stuff. Because with today being Father's Day, it's going to be a little bit, we're going to have some fun because that's what we do when we're together, because we got the libation, so we're going to stay relaxed and stay chill, but we're going to touch on a few topics that I think some brothers can probably relate to. Absolutely. So let the people know what's good.
Let's see. My name is Jermaine Atherton. I'm Aquarius.
I like taking long walks on the beach by myself.
To just chill, hang out. Just that's it. Just really, let's get into it. I don't really want to go too far on who I am. I just want to let's just dive deep into this conversation.
All right, cool. So the topic of conversation is breaking generational curses. And again, when I had the concept of this Converse and how to run it and how to format it, I started thinking about what kind of conversations could I have with people that I care about? Because the goal ideally is to have conversations that mean something to me. And if folks found some interest in it, then, then they could tap in and they could listen and maybe they might learn something. The first Converse that I had was with my son, and we talked about his journey into drag performing and stuff like that.
Which happens to be my godson.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Yes, indeed. My dude, Lil Mark,
put that out there.
Is the homie. And when I started thinking about who I wanted to interview and what kind of topics I wanted to talk about, you obviously, I'm Jermaine Atherton, I'm an Aquarius and all that fun stuff.
Born in February.
Born in February. But what, folks don't know about you, you are a co-proprietor of the Southern Kitchen, food cart in Portland, which is cool. And that's just what you do.
That's right.
This is just part of what you do. One of the many things that you do.
Yeah.
It's not who you are.
That's correct.
I want to talk about who you are at your core and what drives you to do the many things that you do.
Right.
Because there are a lot of things that you do. There's a lot of things that I do that I'm into. And over the years, we've been on this journey together doing a lot of things, from gospel hip hop music, local in the community, to
P.O. Soul.
P.O. Soul. Shout out Asa and all the crew. But even your jam entertainment, right? But again, that's what you do.
Right.
A couple things that you do. It's not who you are.
Correct.
Who you are is a father.
Correct.
Who I think God created you to be is a father.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about your fatherly journey and the ups and downs. And then we're going to talk about how that generational curse is broken.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Go ahead.
Well, let's see. When we talk about fatherhood, or just fathering, growing up, didn't have a father in the home, but had male role models, had men in the community, men at the church who I looked up to, who I learned how to be a man. There was one thing that I also had older brothers, and older sisters, and so being a man, being a father, wasn't something I had always seen. Didn't see it growing up, in the home. There wasn't a man in the home.
Okay.
By the time I started growing up, the boys were out of the home. They had their fathers, but that wasn't me. And so I hung out with my sisters. I hung out with men in the community, the church. Went to school and just kind of did my own thing, cousins and family and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I moved to Portland where I started looking at and coming into who I am as a man, and I'm going to be this. And I remember, quite frankly, one day I told my mom, I said, I'm not going to do the dishes.
Oh, how'd that go over?
It went very well. I said, I'll take out the trash, but I'm not going to do the dishes. That's a woman's job.
And Miss Yvonne let that slide.
She let it slide for a good little while.
Okay.
But I had sisters and other women in the
Shout
home.
out Miss Yvonne. Hey, Mom.
Yeah. Hey, Mom. Yeah.
He's no joke.
But I did that because I was becoming a man, and I think that's
coming
what she
into
was,
your own.
She was letting me assert my manhood, if you will. But she said, if that's the case, you're going to take out the garbage, and you're going to cut the grass, and you're going to keep the grass cut, and you're going to do the yard work and do that stuff.
So it wasn't a get out of responsibility type deal. It was she gave you the opportunity to select what responsibilities you were gonna take on, and she held you to task on that.
That's right.
Okay.
I cut the grass, and we lived on 6th and Holman. I remember that house. It was a pink house at the time. I think it's gray now, but cutting that grass, it was up a hill. I had to go up a hill and down a hill and try to cut
work.
that.
Work.
Yeah,
work.
It was work. And so, but I learned, to work. And so what I end up doing is also looking to the men at the church. Shout out to Mr. Frazier, Billy Frazier, Curtis Mays, Ken Berry. Let's see, Reverend Bethel, Dr. Bethel.
Rest in peace.
Yes,
Respect,
rest in peace.
Pastor Bethel.
So those are some of the men that I looked up to in the community as mentors. I had a mentor growing up, Derek Harris. He was a photographer. I was into photography at the time in high school. And so just different men that I would look and just kind of pick little things from, and learn what to do. I also had brothers, and so they were in the life and doing their thing, and so I learned what not to do.
There you go.
There's a saying that I try to live by is sometimes you got to let other people make your mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes and allow them to make the mistakes and look at that mistake and say, okay, that's not something I want to do.
Sure.
I'm not going down that road.
Sure.
And so I chose to do some things different in my life. When I became a father, I knew nothing about being a father.
And how old were you when you became a father?
I think I was about 29.
Okay, so a little bit later in life for most African American men, keeping it 100, because I became a father at 18. Graduated high school June 16th, 1992. My son was born August the 4th, 1992. So all of that, going out there and tearing up, sowing wild oats and whatnot, I got that mess out of the way in middle school. Lord knows, everybody knows my story, but you I don't want to say you waited, but it seems like we're already starting to craft the picture and the narrative of your story and your journey. So obviously we could talk about, I don't want to use the term cookie cutter, but for lack of a better analogy and for time's sake, a somewhat all too familiar conversation of the African American household. Father figure or biological father not in the picture.
Correct.
Strong black woman raising a young man the best way she can. And again, shout out Miss Yvonne. I know the level of strength and the level of don't play with me boy that is in that woman. Just over the years that I've been blessed to know you and blessed to know her. Having sisters around. I got 6 sisters, you know that. How many sisters total for you?
I have two biological sisters. Both rest in peace.
Indeed.
Yeah,
got you. So having strong women around you, not necessarily having the best example directly in front of you. So what you chose to do is you chose to seek other examples to fill that void. And you were able to do so with brothers in the community, men at the church. I think the men at the church portion is something that doesn't get touted enough. I'm actually, when this podcast airs, when this Converse airs, will be on Sunday, Father's Day, and I will be delivering a message on Father's Day about fathers. Oh, praise God. So let's talk about your journey. So we talked about what got you to where you are, right? So now here we are, 29 years old.
Yeah.
You run into that special someone. Right. But hey, look.
It was someone.
Unscripted.
Yeah.
Unedited.
Yeah.
And for God's sure, unapologetic.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep it real. And with all due respect, we're going to keep it real. We respect those who command respect indeed.
Absolutely.
So we're going to keep it at 100. So let's talk about that journey into fatherhood for you.
Yeah. Okay, I got to back up just a tiny bit because the women that I dated had kids.
Okay.
And so I had to look at that as I never, if I'm keeping it 100,
Yeah.
I didn't ever want kids. I never wanted a kid of my own. And that's kind of strange to some people because they saw me being a great dad. But that was, I was scared, when I look back at that, is because you hear the saying that history repeats itself. History repeats itself. And so growing up, not having a father, seeing the example where my brothers weren't in their kids' lives consistently. And so seeing those examples, I didn't want to be that.
Fair enough.
So I rather date women that had kids. So if I walked out or was not in their lives any longer, it wouldn't be, I wouldn't be walking out on my own.
There we go.
And so the opportunity came when I became a father. But I knew if I become a father, when I became a father, I was going to be the best that I could be. I would still be learning, and I learned a lot from actually my child to be a father, to be a man. But that was something that I didn't, if I'm quite honest, I didn't want a kid, but that was the reason, because I didn't want to be absent.
Yeah. So let me see if I could get this camera to act right, because it's acting silly. So y'all forgive us, those that are watching on YouTube. Let's both look directly into that camera. Jaden, we don't want to hear nothing about, oh, you didn't want me, because that is not the case.
That's not the case.
I'll have you come on and we'll talk about stuff you want to talk about. But this is your dad's opportunity to tout his journey. So don't come back with that, oh, yeah, daddy ain't want me. No, Carl, that's not what we're doing. So let that ride.
It was prior to her coming.
There we go. There we go. And you know what? Keeping it 100, bro. Prior to my son coming, and I tell Lil Mark all the time, he saved my life. I was headed down a certain path. And then we talk about examples. My dad was in the house. And you had mentioned something earlier that I found really profound. So was my brother. And you know Butch.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I've had the opportunity, right. He just turned 65 years old on the 20th. So I had the opportunity to see examples. It was up to me to decide what I did with those examples, right? So should it be a void in example or an example? It's up to us individually to figure out how do we work with that stimulus, what we have there in front of us, right? Because we can't pick the cards that we're dealt. We just got to play the hand that we have, right? So I made the conscious decision to look and see what I have in front of me and either emulate or do the opposite based on said consequences. So Pops had 10 kids. Butch, if I had the time, I would sit and count them all out, right? 5, 6, whatever the number is. But we're talking about, talk about breaking the generational curse. Do you know how many children your father had, your biological father?
If he was standing or sitting across from me right now, I would not know.
Okay.
But we talk about examples.
Yeah.
I had an example, and I didn't know that I had the example until later on in life. So I was being groomed, if you will, and not know it. To be to that example of stepping up. Because I look back as an adult, I had that example right in front of my face. It was my uncle, my mom's only brother. Okay. He was a single father. He raised his daughter. And so I saw that, and as I thought back, but didn't think anything of it. That's my uncle. That's my cousin.
Right. They're just there.
They're just there.
Yep.
They're always together. He's always has his daughter. We're always playing together, and we're just hanging out and just being family. So it wasn't until later in life that I connected the dots that he was a single father. He was that example, all along for me.
Interesting. Wow, I just had like one of those aha moments because we're talking about examples, and I mentioned my dad. My mom and my dad got divorced when I was 2 years old, right? I look back on my life and where God has brought me from that point to now, and I wouldn't ask for a single thing to be changed.
Absolutely.
In my story, because I wouldn't be who I am and all the way down, whatever that represents. But seeing my dad as a single father, even though grandma was in the house helping take care of the kids, and by any stretch, if Pops was still alive right now, he'd be the first one to admit he was far from perfect. Butch, same thing. Me, same thing. You, same thing. Far from perfect. But ideally, seeing examples of single fatherhood and brothers being there, brothers being present and doing what they could in their capacity, some not having an example of what a man should be other than seeing, like my dad saw pimps and players in the streets, but he also saw a strong woman in my grandmother that kept him straight. Now he saw uncles, of course, Uncle Sonny, pimp and player and hustler and all that as an example. But it's interesting that you mentioned that, seeing your uncle be a single father. Again, it goes back to breaking the generational curse, because the stigma is that, I mean, I'm mentoring a young man right now, and his mom was telling me that one of the guidance counselors at the school was saying, so you work a lot of hours? And she was like, yes, I work hours. She says, so he's home alone a lot? The father's not in the picture? And I'm like, we got to get away from this stigma, right? Because situations are what they are, right? And us as black men, we run into situations to where it becomes, we're a unicorn or a leprechaun when people see us with our kids, right? And that's so far from the truth. There are more brothers that are stepping up, doing what they should be doing, what comes natural. Because I'm here to tell you, brothers, let me get to this camera. Brothers, you don't babysit your kids.
No.
You don't babysit your kids. You are with your kids.
That's right.
Right?
That's
you might babysit a niece or a nephew, but when it comes to being your own children, you don't babysit your kids. It's not your responsibility to babysit your kids. Right? So anyway, I'm going to get off that pedestal right quick and let you do your thing.
No, it's funny you say that, because before you mentioned that, I was in my mind, I was talking, I was thinking what irritated me the most when I had my daughter is, oh, it's so nice to see you with your child. Oh, it's so nice to see you involved. It's so nice. And I'm thinking, well, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Isn't this what I'm supposed to be doing?
It doesn't that one go hand in hand with, oh, he's so well spoken?
Right.
What I'm supposed to sound like, a slave picking cotton? Get out of here.
Yeah. And that just that irritated me the most growing up, or being out in public with my daughter, because there was not a place, people, when they didn't see me with my daughter, they would ask me, is everything okay?
Right.
Or where's Jaden at? And so that, from the day she was born, she was attached to my hip or my chest, and that was it. We're so much alike. Yes, it's scary.
Correct.
It's
anybody
scary.
that knows you and knows that baby knows that you guys are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And again, what a blessing, though.
Absolutely.
Right? How far you want to get deep with this?
We can go deep.
Okay, so let's talk about
unscripted, unapologetic,
unfiltered. To the brothers, Mazel Tov, amen. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about the elephant in the room as it pertains to, you are a single father.
Yes.
That happens. Why?
In my situation?
Please.
Let's see. The one thing I'd say that her mom wasn't ready to be a mom.
That's very diplomatic.
That was probably the most evident thing. I've always held her to a certain, that's her mom, but she wasn't ready to be a mom. The life that she was trying to live wasn't the life that I was living, that I wanted for my child.
Yeah.
I want it for, I don't want to say family, because if I'm honest, I am honest, and I told her that I didn't want to marry her. and I didn't want to marry because
From
I didn't
jump,
see
there was no misconceptions. There was no leading on. That's what it was from jump.
And I said that, and because I didn't feel that, but you know, Jaden came along, and I that was my responsibility. You know, and so taking care of her. You know, her mom wants to be in that fast life. That's not the life that I want to live. That's not the life that I provide for my child.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just wasn't ready to be a mom. You know, if I'm, you know, just being honest, and that was one thing that I always said. You know, that she just wasn't ready to be a mom. The things that she was choosing that over, you know, her child.
Right.
She wanted to choose the street. She wanted to choose money. She wanted to choose, you know, drugs, that life, more than, you know, her child. Because when Jaden came along, although I wasn't into drugs or into the life, there were things that I had to change. I couldn't hang out with my boys like I wanted to. I couldn't go to the club like I wanted to because I had a responsibility. Yes, I still had to live as an adult.
Sure.
But this child came first.
29.
At
29 years old. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, young adult, but still young.
Yeah.
Right.
Still young.
And still trying to figure stuff out.
Figuring it out.
How do you think having strong women around? You talked about your sisters. You talked about your mother, her grandmother. She's close with her grandparents on both sides. Her grandmother on both sides. But there's a special someone that has always been there for Jaden.
Yes.
In your sister Norma. That I think
Big Mama,
right? And I think Norma deserves a lot of credit, in my opinion. There's only one or two people that could pull me out of retirement when it comes to DJing, and one of them is Norma, and for Stan, obviously. But I think speak to that a little bit. Talk to the people a little bit about what that represented, and maybe what void that may have filled for you.
So for me,
if any,
you know, I growing up, I mean, I had sisters, I had, you know, women, if you will, that I looked up to. I kind of got to fast forward a little bit. I was already the single father, but Jaden taught me the most my greatest lesson as a man. No matter how close she and I would be and were and are, there's only so many things as a man that I can teach her.
Come on.
And she was outside riding a bike. We won't talk about the bike story, but she was out riding a bike.
Yeah.
And she fell and scraped her arm.
Yeah.
I was in the house chilling. She was screaming bloody murder. I jumped up trying to figure out what's going on. She's my arm. I said, let me see. She goes, no. And I'm thinking she just didn't want me to touch it.
Right. It was hurt too bad.
And so she was asking, where's Terry? And I said, well, she's at home. She's in Portland. She's not here. Let me help you. No. Where's Miss Adrian? I said, I don't know if Miss Adrian was at home or where she was at.
Right.
And she says, no. I said, here, let me help you. And I was getting frustrated.
Sure, of course.
But
I'm dad. Let me be dad.
I'm here to help you. Let me take care of you.
Right.
And the words that she said was a big blow, but it was a big lesson.
Okay.
It was my aha moment. She said, I can do it myself. It broke my heart.
Sure.
But the lesson that I learned, that there's going to be some things that I just can't do for her as a man, as her father. It's going to take the touch of a woman.
Right.
It's going to be the lessons that she can learn in the women in her life. That's going to be the one that's going to teach her. I can only give her so much as a man and as her father, but it's going to take a woman. And shout out to Miss Adrian. Shout out to Terry. Shout out to who was my girlfriend at the time. Shout out to
we're gonna
Norma.
get into the Terry thing.
All the women, in the village. Rashida, Natalia, Shelly, Arlisa, and even the kids.
Right.
The Camerons, the Chelseas, the Cachets,
right.
and the village kids. That also helped with bringing the upbringing of Jaden. I didn't do this all by myself.
Right.
I couldn't.
And that's a perfect segue because God creates us to not to be alone. Right? We go into the Bible story. Man was created not to be alone. God saw fit to make man a helpmate. And we, oftentimes, try to find ways to pick and choose. Right? But, but God. We talk about it all the time. But God. And God had someone prepared, I think, specifically for you, not just for you, but also for Jaden. We talked about examples, We talked about this. It's getting hot, boy. It's getting warm up in here, ain't it?
You got some air there?
Right. No, not at all. Not at all. We both getting misty, but that's cool though, because I think one of the cool parts about our brotherhood is that we can be 100 and keep it 100. And I think that's what more brothers need to be able to do. But understanding that you were in need of someone else to help fill the void because you had examples of men, and Jaden was in need of an example of a woman, and not just an average individual, because I hold your wife in the highest of regards outside of my own bloodline, in a lot of ways, spiritually, as a sister, and all that good stuff. Let's talk about Terry and the role that she plays and the role that she filled at such a pivotal time in a young lady's development.
Yeah. When I became a single father, I've had Jaden all her life, but raised her since she was 1, Solo.
Yep.
So in that moment, that time span, I prayed. I got closer and closer to God. I said, God, send me an angel.
Come on.
Send me an angel, someone that's going to love me for me. Because at that time, I didn't think anybody would love me.
Right.
Anybody could love me. Here I am. I'm a single father. I'm a man with kid.
With an LS.
I did have an LS.
The LS was on point.
I had a house.
Yeah.
I bought a house 21 years ago this month. My first home. And it was a nice home, but I looked at myself, who's gonna want me? I'm what's bad goods, I'm still
damaged
bread,
goods. And that's so funny, because how often do we hear that from sisters in the same context?
Right.
And then the thing is that it's not always the sisters who go through these emotional things. Right. I've been working, hopefully, God willing, timing wise, working on a 3-part series of whole person health. The first of the 3-part was the physical and nutrition. The second part I want to do is the emotional and mental, right? And that's where that kind of falls into place, right? You start to doubt yourself, right? That's the enemy. We both know what it is.
Right.
I mean, the folks out there, you guys know what it is. It's the enemy doing what the enemy is designed to do, which is cast doubt, which also through doubt comes lack of faith, and lack of faith comes distance from us and God's plan, and focus and confusion. But anyway, getting back to what you were saying, you were looking at your situation and praying for God to send you a helpmate.
Yeah, and it was shortly, it happened quick, but she was always there. Our paths had crossed many times in life. But she was always there. But I prayed and God sent me an angel, and a few weeks later, some things happened. We were both volunteering with the same program, so I saw her, but I didn't know her. I had a thought, but a lot of things just, I don't want to. I can go on and talk about that whole situation, but
right. We'll do some hot anniversary episodes where we talk about how bad our wives are. Bad in a good way.
Okay.
Like Michael Jackson bad. Like Janet Jackson bad.
Oh, we don't want to talk. Don't bring up Janet.
All right, we don't need that long.
Please don't.
All right.
Okay.
Keisha Cole bad. Old Keisha Cole bad.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, so Terry came into the picture. We met August 9th.
Wow.
2003. At a party. That's kind of where we made the connection.
Okay.
Where we recognized each other. And ironically, that night I played her boyfriend. Or her date, and hadn't really met
some
her.
form of a role playing scenario or something like that.
You know, we danced all night, and people were trying to talk, and I guess she kind of used me as a blocker, if you will. But I had my eye on something else, and she was using me to kind of be the one. You know, whatever.
And needless to say, because she said it several times, y'all was just kicking it.
Yeah.
That didn't last, but go ahead.
Yeah, we kicked it. But yeah, so Terry and I went on our first date, and we met on August 9th, 2003. Really wasn't in a position to date, just mentally. I want to put a pin there and kind of go back to who's going to want me for me and what I am.
Sure, let's roll.
I went and seek counseling. I went to counseling. And that's something in our community that's not I think now it's being more and more
normalized.
Black men and black families are going to counseling, but I went to counseling at a time that it wasn't
it wasn't hot.
Yeah, it wasn't hot. It wasn't, and that was not in church. It wasn't a church counselor. It was a real. I didn't sit on the couch, but I sat in the chair.
Was it Ray?
It was Ray, yeah.
Okay, pause. To the camera, again, shout out Ray Shellmeyer.
Yes, sir.
Brother, I was talking about you to somebody just the other day, and Ray is a blessing to the black community. He's a blessing to a lot of families. I would wager to say way more people have a lot in common in work that Ray Shellmeyer has done to help people. So thank you, and God bless you, Ray, for the time you spent with my son. And I'll be calling you soon, because even after when my dad passed away, I don't remember how many years ago it is now, but the first thing Adrian's been telling me through that time was you need to go sit and talk to Ray. So Ray, I'll be seeing you. But anyway, go ahead on.
So I did that, and then kind of fast forward back to the helpmate, and Terry and I went on our first date in October, and then we've been hanging ever since.
So how did Jaden respond to Terry initially?
It takes Terry to tell this story. So when I first met or allowed the connection to happen,
boundaries,
for
safety,
her to meet,
no randoms.
To meet Terry, it was, we watched the movie, came to the house. And
you remember the movie?
I don't. I remember I borrowed it from someone, and I probably still have it on DVD.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, I digress.
But if I think about it, I probably can remember what that movie was. But if anyone knows me, if I sit still for any length of time, I'm out. I'm asleep.
Knocked. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what's going on. I'm out.
You got a lot going on.
And so, Terry, it was myself, it was Jaden in the middle, and Terry, and we were watching this movie, and I fell asleep, and Terry and Jaden still watching the movie, because Jaden can outlast anybody. She just
indeed, facts.
And so
still
she was looking at Terry, looking at the TV, looking at me, looking at Terry. She saw me sleep, and Terry was still there. And so the look that Jaden was getting her is like, well, my dad's asleep. Why are you still here?
It's time for you to go.
It's time for you to go. But I think that was the only kind of the strange thing. But because Terry and Jaden are very, very close. There's nothing you can say about Jaden and Terry. I think Terry, she gets upset at things a little bit more than I. And we'll go to bat for Jaden. I remember we laugh about a story because although Jaden and I look alike, people say that Terry and Jaden look alike. Yeah. And they laugh about this story because a lady came up to Terry and said, I remember when you were pregnant, with Jaden.
Oh, wow.
And so at that point, Jaden and Terry, I wasn't there, but they shared the story and they just bust out laughing about it because they knew.
Yeah.
But they just, didn't want to make the lady look bad.
Look silly. Sure.
But, Terry's been a lifesaver. I'm not going to get into that because, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I got you. So we're coming up on the tail end. The cool part about this Converse series that I'm doing is it seems like once we get into these talks, and my pastor Frazier, always told me, he said, when you get up there and preach, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Mm-hmm. But leave them wanting more. Right. You don't want them losing you. You want... Yeah, I mean, you don't want to lose them. Right. You want to just go ahead and leave them with an opportunity to have you want to come back. So ideally, maybe we could circle back at another time and we could talk about other stuff. But part two of a mini. But the cool part about it is circling back to the original topic, which is breaking that generational curse. Mm-hmm. It takes, from what I've heard in all of this conversation, it takes a lot of intent. I think it takes a lack of scapegoating to say, well, I didn't have, so I have the right to behave as such.
Right. That's the easy way.
That's the easy way. And it's evident that, we all know through scripture, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle, right? But what it all comes down to is that taking the hard route. Go ahead.
Well, when I say easy, and I wanted to correct that because it's actually hard to walk away. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because had I done that, you have to work so hard, and looking back, that I think there's more things that come in. So what seems easy to walk away, to me, that's I don't know. It's easier to be there and be involved. That's the way I looked at it.
Well, why you look at it that way, right?
Help me out, preacher.
No, seriously, it's because the Spirit of God in you will not allow you to do anything less. Yeah. Right? And it is easy for those who don't have that spirit in them, or those who don't value what they have, if their value is misplaced. Right? Because I know how you value your daughter. I've seen it. I've been blessed to see it for many, many years. And God willing, I'll be blessed to see it many, many more years to come. Too. You ain't the easiest dad to have.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Right. Nor am I. Right. But thankfully, we're still able to draw breath and wake up every day and keep trying to do it better. But it is the easy way to walk away. And it's unfortunate that is the easiest thing to do, is just to say, we joke about, that baby pappy, that ain't my baby, and stuff like that. But what it all comes down to is it takes intentionality. It takes a community of brothers that stand up and say, yeah, man, no. This is the easy way, is to be there for your child. The easy way is to be there for those ballet recitals, for when they're singing in middle school, Blue Moon, and all that fun stuff that you wouldn't trade for the world.
Absolutely.
It might be torturous at a time when you're going through it.
Yeah, that
violin lessons, and clarinets, and what they used to play in middle school at Image, the
kazoo,
that little piccolo type thing, and they all had it, and they couldn't play nothing but hot cross buns. All of our kids. Tori, Cachet, Cameron, Chelsea, Mark, Jaden, all the way down the line. Probably Caden still playing hot cross buns. But what it comes down to is intentionality. And if we could say anything to the brothers out there, it is a matter of, Father's Day is a time where fathers are celebrated. Father's Day is also a time where fathers are missed. But God always has a plan, because the God that we serve is always there. He's always present, even though in physicality, our biological father, or those who we look up to in a father role, aren't there. You know, my father passed on. My stepdad passed on. Thank God my brother is still here. My brother-in-law, Anthony, is still here. Pastor Frazier is still here. So I have a lot of examples. I got you as an example. You have me as an example.
Absolutely.
You know, I got my brothers from the 8 back home as an example. And we all have... We found, I think, ways to fill those voids. Even though I had my dad, there was still something missing, and I think he would admit that. And even though Jaden has you, there was still something missing.
Right.
And God saw fit to bring Terry into her life and surround her with women that she could emulate. And we're all blessed to be a part of that. So, if you would take a few minutes, and I'll stop babbling, because ideally this converse is a converse. It's a two-way conversation. But I get passionate about stuff like this. Ephesians, in the book of Ephesians 5:26, it says, "Present your wife blameless like Christ presented the church." And it's easy for us as men to fall on our swords. It's easy for us as men to take the blame and the brunt of whatever shots come at us from our kids and our spouses. And that's what I think God crafted us to do. But being able to have strong brothers, you know, iron sharpens iron. You know, that's what Rob says all the time. Right. Blake, shout out Blake. Iron does sharpen iron, and we have to be transparent with each other. Speaking of going to counseling and stuff like that, that's major.
Yes.
Having these deep conversations about fatherhood and about our kids is major. See, to me, that's what Father's Day should be.
Right.
Not a celebration of dads taking the day off and not doing anything, but dads being around each other and celebrating the journey, right? So if you can, take a couple minutes and just talk about the journey one last time, and anything else you want to say about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shout out to the men that are there and that have remained there. One thing that I want to leave or give to the women, if he's trying, let him. If it takes 20 years, the kid's 20, or maybe not 20, because now he can make that decision on his own. But if it took him 15 years to come around, let him. You know, whatever time that he's able to give, let him. You know, let whatever it is and has been, let it go. You know, if he's trying,
that's good.
Allow him to be there, because it. At least at that point, he's wanting. So maybe he didn't realize it the 3-4 years. Maybe he couldn't let go of whatever because you wouldn't allow him or whatever. But if he's trying, allow him. But to the men, if you're going to try and if you're going to want to be there, you have to remain consistent in whatever it is that you're going to do. If you're going to be there, if you're going to say that you're going to call at 8 o'clock on a Friday, call at 8 o'clock on a Friday. If you're going to say you're going to be at the school, show up to the school for lunch, because the kid is expecting that you're going to do what you're going to say, and you have to remain consistent to that. But there's not one thing in this world that I would rather be than a father. Wow. And it's crazy because I didn't see that. And I enjoy that. I embrace these gray hairs in my beard now because those are because of a father. You know, there are some things that I still want, you know, as we all do. We want the best for our kids. We want them to learn these great lessons. We want to provide for them. I work all types of jobs.
Right.
I'm trying to create other things. You know, I'm not doing it for me. Right. I'm doing it for my child. You know, I want to leave something for her. I hope to be here forever, but I know that that's impossible. Sure. So when I'm not here, I want to leave her something. I want to create a legacy, you know, for her. And those, you know, if she has kids at some point. Right. You know, for my grandkids, my godkids, I want to leave something. I'm working as hard as I can now, so that they don't have to work as hard as I did, you know. But men, if you lay down and make it, you got to take care of it. Step up, and just do what it's supposed to. But on the flip side, ladies, allow them. And if it happens to be a step parent, men, just allow that man to be, because I look at you and Danny. And I said this at the wedding, that you all are the example of what it is to co-parent. It may not have been great in the beginning or wherever. Maybe it was. I don't know. And I don't need to know that story.
Right.
But what I see now is two men loving this child. And you can't tell the difference of who the daddy is and who the stepdad is.
Right.
Because there's nothing that, like with Terry, you can't tell her that that's not her child.
Right.
You can't tell Jaden that that's not her mom.
Right. And you can't tell that lady who walked up to him, or wherever that was,
and that Terry's not the mom.
Right.
But
that's legit.
I appreciate this conversation, and I hope that it helps someone. But this is being a father is great.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
No, sir.
But it's great.
Yeah,
I love it. I enjoy it. But again, I'm still learning. But again, shout out to the men that I looked up to, that I learned from, and hopefully when they see me, they see a little bit of themselves in me. That they rubbed off on me. That's the best thing that I can give to them on this Father's Day is living a life to make them proud. When Pastor Bethel looked at me, I hope that he saw a little bit of him in me.
Sure.
When Billy Frazier looks at me, I hope he sees a little bit of him in me. Right. When Curtis Mays looks at me, I hope he sees a little bit of him in me. When Ken Berry looks at me, I hope he sees a little bit of him in me, because these are the men that I looked up to in the community. When you look at me, I hope you see a little bit of me, because I pulled some things from you. I pulled some things from Blake. I pulled some things from all the different men that are that I hang around. Because things that if I don't make you better, then what good?
What's the point?
So you all have made me better, and these men in my life and have made me better. So happy Father's Day to all those men and all you men, out there.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope. Good conversation. You guys started getting heated. You just rocking back and forth.
Yeah.
I know what that means. That's what used to happen before I would go up and preach, and you'd be sitting there watching me rocking back and forth because the Spirit is starting to work. And to me, man, that's evidence of the Spirit that lies in a willing heart. So, brothers, we've talked a lot. We're sitting on 47 minutes. This is the longest converse thus far. So, ideally, we hope that you guys have enjoyed this conversation. I definitely have, but we always have these conversations. So this is just kind of like a peek into fly on the wall type situation for others and brothers that are out there. There's no shame in being emotional, being open, especially when you talk about your family, your kids, and those that you care about, especially those brothers that come before us, right? Because if it wasn't for the past that they've laid and the past now that we're laying for the young brothers coming behind us, then again, like you said, what good is it, right? Yeah. What good is it? So
make me better.
Make me better.
That's it. Make me better. I may have to get a shirt that say "Make me better."
Let's do it. Print it up. Put Jam Entertainment, and then put Cloud City Podcast on the back.
Make me better.
Cloud City Converse. So again, happy Father's Day, brothers that are out there. I think what I'll do is I'll probably just run a list of names at the tail end and just ramble them off, because there's so many brothers that are popping around my head. All of my boys back home. My man Pill, who raised his 2 sons on his own when their mother walked out the door when they were in diapers, right? I mean, there's these stories, right? Yeah. There's more brothers besides just the 2 of us that are sitting across from this table. This alligator skin, brown alligator. You never seen a brown alligator until you look today. You understand me? But brown alligator skin table, that have done what we're doing. Yeah. We are not the leprechauns. Right. We are not the unicorns. There's way more brothers out there that are doing the right thing than those that aren't. Their stories just aren't told. So let's foster an opportunity for brothers to tell their stories, to break that generational curse of believing that black men all abandon their kids.
And it starts with you. So what? So what that your dad wasn't there? So what that his dad wasn't there? So what that he wasn't there? At some point, someone has to be the one to break it.
Amen.
Why not you?
Right.
Why not you?
Right. Bootstrap that thing. Grab them bootstraps, pull them up, and do the work.
And if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here.
Right.
I'll
here.
talk. I'll listen. I don't know all the answers, but find somebody that you can talk to that has gone through or who is where you want to be.
Amen.
Don't hate if you want to be a millionaire, which I think we all are going to be, you and me.
You speak that. Don't come around here trying to take mine. I got something in the safe.
That just be, look up to those people, seek them out that are trying to be or wanting to, that who are what you want to be.
There you go.
And find those examples, and you don't have to make all the mistakes. Let somebody else make those mistakes for you, which meaning that you have to learn from them. And how ironic that our stories, how we connected. We won't go into that, but how ironic that our stories are the same.
Yeah, intertwined. And there's a lot of brothers out there with stories that are intertwined with ours. So,
and we've only known each other for,
how old is Jaden?
Jaden's 19, so it had to be 16 years.
She wasn't 3. She was younger than that. Remember, she was taking tubbies and falling asleep in a box.
So then she
was like 2.
She had to be 2.
Wow, man, look at God.
Yeah.
God is good.
2.
Yeah, Jaden, we just put your business on the street.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. So, right. So based on that, we're going to go ahead and close this thing out. Thank you guys again. God bless you for listening. And I'm going to end it the way I end every episode, just like my man Lando said. Brother, you, sir, truly belong here with us amongst the stars.
Aha.
Yes, indeed. Sweaty hands.
Yeah.
Let's go get something to eat.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I get some sanitizer first?
And a mask.
Yeah.
Did you spray this thing?
Right.
Right. Anyway, y'all be easy. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Peace.